Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Society. We are grateful to gather on this beautiful morning, both in person and online, for a time of inspiration, reflection, and connection. Whether you join us today with joy in your heart, weighted with burdens, or searching for meaningful connections, we are glad that you are here. As we begin our service, we pause to remember that each of us is sustained by the land where we make our homes and livelihoods, land that was once dominated by tall grass prairie. We remember that for centuries before colonization, Native people lived in interdependence with this land we call home. We give thanks, particularly to the Kickapoo, the Iowa, the Sauk, and the Meskwaki, and the Sioux Nations for their continued stewardship as we seek to live more sustainably with this land. I'm Kara Beauchamp. I'm a member of the Unitarian Universalist Society and a worship associate. I am a white woman in my late 50s with curly, shoulder-length white hair. My pronouns are she and her. Our sanctuary is filled with people of all ages. Through the window walls of our sanctuary, we have a wonderful view of the outdoors on this blustery, chilly, late April morning. As Unitarian Universalists, love is the core value of our covenantal faith. As people of many ages, genders, races, sexual orientations, classes, abilities, and health statuses, we gather together as a radically welcoming spiritual community. During our services, we draw inspiration and meaning from thoughtful people of the past and present, and use sources as diverse as poetry, nature, science, and personal experience. We covenant together to affirm and promote 7 principles, which we hold as strong values and moral guides. These principles are written into Article 2 of the bylaws of the Unitarian Universalist Association, which is the National Organization of Congregations, also called the UUA. Last year, this congregation endorsed the adoption of an 8th principle, which calls us to be committed to active anti-oppression and anti-racism. We endorsed the 8th principle both to guide our own work and to encourage the UUA to include the spirit of the 8th principle in revisions to Article 2. Today, we will discuss a comprehensive set of revisions to Article 2 of the UUA bylaws, which includes removing the principles from the bylaws and replacing them with values. Our call to worship this morning is Revision of the Revision by Kara Stebbins. Kara is a member of a UU fellowship in Kentucky. She wrote this poem as she struggled to encourage her congregation to engage in a constructive process of considering the Article 2 proposal. She offers it as a way of thanking the Commission for all the hard work they have done and for all of the congregations who are continuing the hard work of building consensus. My search for meaning with verbs and values. 1. Loving life means noticing interdependence, our small part in it, but also the large impact we can have in both damaging it and repairing it. 2. Loving life means celebrating, learning from, and creatively increasing the diversity of life. 3. Loving life means seeking and acting in harmony with individual conscience, inclusive democracy, and justice for all of us as both oppressors and oppressed. 4. Loving life means accepting and adapting to the constancy of change. We may love tradition, but we know it is never complete or perfect, always alive and living. 5. Loving life means sharing our generosity, looking and listening to ourselves and each other, our feelings and thoughts, then contributing our action and time and resources. 6, loving life means supporting the inherent worth and dignity of each being by building and rebuilding beloved community in which all beings can live and love life.
The music director here. Hey. And I'm sitting at the piano today because Xinhui is taking a day away. She gets to do that every once in a while. We miss her. But you'll have to put up with me for today. And over here we have UUS singers today. Very exciting, very exciting. I hope maybe you'll come next week to hear kind of special music Sunday. Oh. But right now we're going to sing together. So if you have the teal hymnal, it's number 1017, but the words are also on the screen. I invite you to rise in body and spirit as we sing together, Building a New Way. We are big.
I'm Brenda Lindley, a worship associate and member of UUS. My pronouns are she, they. I'm middle-aged. Some call me short. My belly is soft and round. I have brown hair and gray hair that falls down past my shoulders, glasses, light skin, and I am dressed quite spiffily. As Unitarian Universalists, we light a flame within a chalice as a symbol of sanctuary and safety, to unite us in our worship and to remind us of our ongoing search for the light of truth. This morning's chalice lighter is Avery. Please join me in saying our chalice lighting words after Avery lights our chalice. Life is a gift for which we are grateful. We gather in community to celebrate the wonder and mystery of this great gift. So let us now kindle the flame of our liberal religious heritage and renew our covenant of mutual love and care. Love is our doctrine, the quest for truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, and to serve those in need. This we promise, this we covenant with life and one another. Each week, we light a candle for justice and healing to acknowledge our interdependence with the natural world, with all the members of the global community, especially the most vulnerable. We light this candle so that we may not be numbed to injustice and trauma, but rather find strength, courage, and love as we work in solidarity with others for liberation, justice, and healing. Together, we create resilience and hope. Today, as we light this candle, we're particularly mindful of many of the bills coming up in the Iowa legislature, and I'd like to highlight something cool happening, or that happened. Indianola High School choir director Miles Finn had a wonderful surprise for his students who were performing the Addams Family musical. His dramatic unveiling of their musical, what they were going to perform, went viral, and the composer of the Addams Family noticed and surprised the students by showing up for opening night. So as I light this candle, let's hold a time of silence to listen to our hearts and bodies, or perhaps lift up prayers.
Good morning. For those of you who may not know me, my name is Nick Kaplan. I am the grateful director of Lifespan Religious Education here at the Unitarian Universalist Society. I'm shorter, non-binary person with curly gray and brown hair. I desperately would like to freshen up the undercut. I notice that we have a really big box up here today. Anybody else wondering about this box? Okay, I did put it there. My kid calling me out. I put this box up here. And you know what? I think, and I might be biased since I put it here, I think it has some amazing ideas. But I think some people might be wondering about what's in this box. Kara, would you help me out?
Sure.
Thank you. So we see here on the front of the box, I'm going to let my friends see too, it says Article 2 in big bold letters. That's kind of an odd name, and maybe why we have some wondering. So,
But wait, did you notice on the other sides of the box? It looks like it has more than just Article 2 inside it. On one side, it says 7 UU principles. The other side has a list. It says Jewish and Christian teaching, prophetic words, humanist teaching. Oh, these are the inspiration and sources of our Unitarian Universalist faith. The last side says the purpose of Unitarian Universalism.
this must be a very important box. Wait a second. I see here that it says in the fine print, see the UUA bylaws. Could this box contain the part of our UUA rules that help govern our association of UU churches around the world? Oh, yes! Article 2 is the part of those rules that has our UU principles, purpose, and sources. A very important box. Look, there is a plant in here. Not a very good place for a plant. Plants are living things. You shouldn't just stick them in a box. And what is this? There's something stuck to the bottom. I wonder why there's a plant in this bylaws box.
I think I know. It's because we are a living tradition, just like the plant.
That must be it. Look at this thing stuck to the bottom. Here, let me give that to you. It's a list of questions. Good questions. Good questions for wondering. It's saying, why do we exist? What do we value? And where do we come from? Great wondering questions in our Wonder Box.
Yes, we are a living tradition because UUs keep returning to these questions. Many times over the last 80 years, UUs have come together as a people to talk and disagree and compromise and make meaning together. In fact, we have done this so many times that we made a rule that we should do it every 15 years. But as of today, it's been more than 30 years since the last time we updated our faith's shared covenant, values, and inspiration.
I see a lot of rough drafts in here. I see the original principles from 1961. That's the one where the language only refers to the dignity of man and leaves out all other genders. Thank goodness we changed that.
I know why this is in our... What else is in here?
I know why that's in our box. 10 years ago, some UUs of color said we should add anti-racism and anti-oppression to our values. And they began organizing the 8th principle, which we've adopted here, right? To our 7 principles, so we could finally name being anti-racist as a UU value.
Yes, and they helped us remember why we need to have another faith-wide conversation, asking, why do we exist? What do we value? And where do we come from? To help us get there, over the last few years, leaders at the national level have been holding conversations, asking UUs all over the country those questions.
Now the leaders are working on this, who are working on this, have taken all those conversations and worked to create losing our place. To create a new statement about why we exist as a faith, what matters most to us, and where we come from. Kara, can you dig around in there? It's got to be in there somewhere. Can anyone guess what that document is called? Wonderful, thank you. It does say Article 2 on there, and it's called the Article 2 Study Report.
Why did you put the name on it?
I'm looking for it, but it's hard to reach past all these hearts.
Let me help you with that. Here, can you help me with this? Here, would you like one? Let me pass out these love hearts. Do you want one? Yeah.
Here it is. The Article 2 study report says we exist because of love. It says the purpose of the Unitarian Universalist Association is to actively engage its members in the transformation of the world through liberating love. It says love is the power that holds us together and is at the center of our shared values. What do you think about that? Is love what holds us together?
I love it. Finally, the word love is a part of our statement of faith. I must tell you, though, those 7 or 8 principles are not perfect, but they do have some fine ideas and words in them. I'm all about changing as we learn and as we grow, but do we have to give up on all those principles?
The way we name them and explain them is changing. Their words are different. And the seeds of each of the principles we learned in RE and here in the sanctuary are still inside the new words. The one that talks about honoring the interdependent web of all existence is first now. So we start with the web. The one that talks about how every person has dignity and worthiness now talks about how each person being able to flourish in that worthiness and how we will work together to make that flourishing possible.
And love is at the center of it all.
Yeah, love is at the center of it all.
You know, there's something else I love? I love when my friends come join me in RE class. So anyone any children or youth who would like to come to RE class, or anyone else, if you're interested, you can come grab an egg shaker. You can join us in this fun song. Does anybody want an egg shaker? You can keep the heart.
Be open for something wonderful to happen. Be open to the possibility. Be open for something wonderful to happen. Be open to the possibility. Aye, 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 one more time, aye, 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 aye. I meant one, 2 more times. Aye, 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 aye.
You may have noticed that at the beginning of our service this morning, we didn't ask you to turn off your phones or make sure they're not connected to the UUS Wi-Fi. It turns out that's not a problem anymore. Yay. And that means that I can ask you to use your phones during the service. In just a few minutes, we will use them to create a word cloud. If you don't have a phone, you could ask a neighbor to contribute a word for you. But first, we're going to reflect back on some word clouds that we made in the past. The first word cloud we're going to show was created by this congregation on October 24th, 2020, when asked for words that describe the threads that bind our UUS community together. In the word cloud, the biggest words are the ones that were suggested the most. Can you see the words? I could read some of the bigger ones aloud, and you can take a moment to read and reflect on these words or phrases that the community came up with. So at the center is friendship, joy, welcoming, patience, covenant group, acceptance, empathy, commitment. The next word cloud was created by the congregation on February 28th, 2021, when the question was, what is a value or principle you want to use to create a truer beloved community? The words here include love, commitment, compassion, acceptance, respect, justice, purpose, kindness, friendship. So in a moment, I'm going to ask us to create another word cloud, but I'd like to take a chance to center ourselves, to breathe and sing together, singing meditation on breathing.
There's a lot of parts to this you could choose to do, and I think I want to encourage you to try one that maybe you haven't tried before if it comes to that. Or we can try breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love.
So now, I want to ask you to think of values that you believe we should draw on as Unitarian Universalists and as UU member congregations. Values you think we should draw on. I'll give you some time to contemplate, and then you have a chance to enter words for values into the Mentimeter. It's better if you stick to single words instead of phrases because they coalesce better and show up more strongly. So I encourage you to try to think of individual words. So there's a link, a QR code that you can use to get to a Mentimeter. There's also a QR code on your order of service if you picked that up. We're going to do another Mentimeter later, so this is the first one. So again, values that you believe we should draw on as Unitarian Universalists and as UU member congregations. Shall we take a look at what we're getting? There we go. Here come the words. So we have love at the center, justice and compassion, community, acceptance, empathy, respect. Thank you for contributing those words.
Mistakes and Miracles on the Road to Multiculturalism is the Unitarian Universalist Association Common Read for 2022-23. The UUS Board of Trustees is currently reading it, and so is the Racial Justice Team. UUS will have congregational discussions of the book in June 2023. In Chapter 1, The Call of Our Faith, authors Reverend Nancy Palmer Jones and Karen Lynn write, "The Unitarian Universalist promise of an all-embracing love and an all-inclusive honoring of each person's worth and dignity draws peoples of all colors to this faith. But the religion's institutions, its congregations, its regional and national structures have yet to fully embrace and embody this promise. Our UU conversation partners suggest that the way forward lies in Unitarian Universalists, awakening to the world as it is, centering the voices that have been marginalized or outright silenced for centuries, understanding and resisting the systems that keep oppressive practices in place, acknowledging the pain and harm that result from remaining embedded in white supremacy culture, and steadily, with a renewed, resilient commitment, a dedication that does not wane or falter over the long haul, replacing the ways of white supremacy culture with the ways of love in its most effective, tangible forms. In the Unitarian Universalist faith, revelation is never sealed, as Reverend Abi Janamachi reminds us. Ours is a religion designed to evolve."
Back in our worship service on February 19th, we explored Unitarian Universalism as a living religious tradition and how the words we use to describe what we believe, who we are, how we gather, and what we do in the world have changed over time. As part of that, Reverend Diana talked about how, as Unitarian Universalists, we've agreed that at least every 15 years we need to review and sometimes to change our statements about what we do and what guides us as we do it. We've agreed to review these statements every 15 years, partly because we know the world changes, our understanding of the world changes, and we need to engage together in our ongoing search for truth and meaning as the world changes. And we've also agreed to review these statements every 15 years, partly because we don't want them to become static creeds. We believe that it's important to reflect together on what is important to us and to decide if we need to talk about what guides us and what we're doing in new ways. In the fall of 2020, the UUA established the Article 2 Study Commission and charged them to propose any revisions that will, quote, enable our UUA, our member congregations, and our covenanted communities to be a relevant and powerful force for spiritual and moral growth, healing, and justice, unquote. Over a 2.5-year period, the study commission met with thousands of UU groups and as individuals, collected feedback on surveys, and held many discussions. The commission engaged in 45 feedback sessions with over 4,500 total participants. Their videos reached over 7,000 viewers, and their 29 surveys generated almost 11,000 responses. All of this input became part of the proposal we'll look at in a minute. But the process doesn't end there. The UUA Board of Trustees has asked people to submit amendments to the proposal and to send them through the UUA Article 2 webpage. There are, as of yesterday afternoon, over 300 comments or suggested changes that have been submitted. Amendment ideas are being accepted through the website until midnight Eastern Time tonight. The UUA Board of Trustees will review all of the amendment suggestions and post these to the Article 2 website. I've read through them. They're fascinating. I encourage you to take a look. Search Article 2 revision UUA, and you'll find the website. Next, during the month of May, the UUA Board of Trustees will be hosting 3 workshops to discuss the proposed amendments. The dates and times of these workshops are listed on the Article 2 website. Then, at General Assembly in June, delegates will be able to formally submit amendments. Proposed amendments submitted by June 5th from delegates will be considered priorities. The gathered General Assembly will discuss and vote on prioritized amendments during General Assembly, which is June 21st through the 25th. If the proposal is approved by a simple majority of delegates during this year's General Assembly, it will be forwarded to the 2024 General Assembly. It will only become final if approved in 2024. This may sound like a lot of process, and it is. It is a lot of process because it's so important to hear a lot of voices on this. And it's not just important for the outcome, for the end result of whether we as Unitarian Universalists adopt this new statement about the purposes of the Unitarian Universalist Association and its principles and sources of inspiration that guide us as Unitarian Universalists. It's important because the process of thinking, feeling, and talking about how we understand our living tradition, our faith, and this changing world is important. The conversations and the process of thinking alone and together about how to tell us about this tell us a lot about what we value now, where we're going, and how we might get there. And the process is also important because change is hard. Taking time on the process helps us discern whether these are changes we want to make, changes that will help guide us into the future, rather than reacting one way or another because of how we feel about the change. So what is the proposal? Well, the proposed revisions to the Principles and Purposes section focus on our shared values and then use these values as the ground for aspirational statements of action. Building on the principles we've been using, they say more clearly what we will do based on our values. Brenda and I are going to read a good chunk of this proposal out loud, and you can follow along on the screen. While we read, I invite you to notice what you feel, what words stick with you, and what images come to you. How does this proposal connect with how you understand our living religious tradition? How might it help guide us as we move into the future? Does the proposal answer the questions of why do we exist, what do we value, and where do we come from? So here it is. Section 1, Purposes. The Unitarian Universalist Association will devote its resources to and use its organizational powers for religious, educational, and humanitarian purposes. Its primary purposes are to assist congregations in their vital ministries, support and train leaders, both lay and professional, to foster lifelong faith formation, to heal historic injustices, and to advance our Unitarian Universalist values in the world.
The purpose of the Unitarian Universalist Association is to actively engage its members in the transformation of the world through liberating love.
Section 2, Values and Covenant. As Unitarian Universalists, we covenant congregation to congregation through our association to support and assist one another in our ministries. We draw from our heritages of freedom, reason, hope, and courage, building on the foundation of love.
Love is the power that holds us together and is at the center of our shared values. We are accountable to one another for doing the work of living our shared values through the spiritual discipline of love.
Inseparable from one another, these shared values are interdependence. We honor the interdependent web of all existence.
We covenant to cherish Earth and all beings by creating and nurturing relationships of care and respect. With humility and reverence, we acknowledge our place in the great web of life, and we work to repair harm and damaged relationships.
Pluralism. We celebrate that we are all sacred beings, diverse in culture, experience, and theology.
We covenant to learn from one another in our free and responsible search for truth and meaning. We embrace our differences and commonalities with love, curiosity, and respect.
Justice. We work to be diverse, multicultural, beloved communities where all thrive.
We covenant to dismantle racism and all forms of systemic oppression. We support the use of inclusive, democratic processes to make decisions.
Transformation. We adapt to the changing world.
We covenant to collectively transform and grow spiritually and ethically. Openness to change is fundamental to our Unitarian and Universalist heritages, never complete and never perfect.
Generosity. We cultivate a spirit of gratitude and hope.
We covenant to freely and compassionately share our faith, presence, and resources. Our generosity connects us to one another in relationships of interdependence and mutuality.
Equity. We declare that every person has the right to flourish with inherent dignity and worthiness.
We covenant to use our time, wisdom, attention, and money to build and sustain fully accessible and inclusive communities.
Article 2 also contains Section 3, Inspirations, Section 4, Inclusion, and Section 5, Freedom of Belief. I encourage all of you to read the whole Article 2 revision proposal. Thank you, Brenda. And this is the image that includes love at the center and the values surrounding that. Many feelings come up for most of us when we hear this new proposal. There may be joy and hope, and there may be a sense of loss about specific things that we are used to having said in a certain way. I'd like you to take a moment and think about feelings of joy and hope that this proposal evokes in you. And then there is another link to another Mentimeter. So I encourage you to enter words of joy and hope that this new proposal evokes in you. And we'll take a look at that. So we could look at the words we're collecting. We see words like commitment, growth, change, interdependence, acceptance, beloved, progress, thoughtfulness, gratitude. Thank you for those words. So in addition to feelings of joy and hope, you may also be feeling a sense of loss or grief. And I want to give you a few moments to talk to somebody next to you, near you, about any feelings that you have of grief or loss. Thinking about this proposed change to Article 2.
Within myself, any trepidation I feel is like, how is this landing with others? And I think we're in a place where most people are in a place to hear it.
It's interesting looking at the proposed changes
Really?
on the website. Yeah, but it's also interesting because, the EU, like we experience what it's like here.
Right.
They're also different. It's really
Right.
fascinating to get
Around
get
other-
that sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By chance, could I have
Yes.
a little of your water?
Yes, it's all clean today,
I know,
which is
I
not
know.
true.
I was-
Always,
I-
it's not
you
always true.
mentioned that. That's why I was like, I don't want to be joking.
I'm sure you're just getting started on having interesting conversations about this proposal, and so I'm going to encourage you to continue those conversations after the service is over. So, as we consider changes to Article 2, principles and purposes, and as we consider who we are individually as Unitarian Universalists, and who we are as a community of individuals, before we finish this morning, I want to tell you a little bit about myself. I was brought up as a Christian Scientist. Christian Scientists are best known for their faith healing, and indeed, I didn't go to a doctor until I was in college. Throughout my childhood, I attended Sunday school regularly. We sat around tables with our Sunday school teachers, and before starting our lesson, we stood and recited a statement called the Scientific Statement of Being, written by Mary Baker Eddy, who founded the Christian Science Church in 1879. It goes like this: there is no life, truth, intelligence, nor substance in matter. All is infinite mind and its infinite manifestation, for God is all in all. Spirit is immortal truth. Matter is mortal error. Spirit is the real and eternal. Matter is the unreal and temporal. Spirit is God, and man is his image and likeness. Therefore, man is not material, he is spiritual. I tried to make the logic of that statement make sense to me, but as I grew up, I couldn't make it work. After college, I got a PhD in physics. I believe that matter is real. In fact, I believe that matter is all that there is. While I was in graduate school, I joined the First Universalist Church of Minneapolis in 1992. Since then, I have also been a member, along with my husband, at First Unitarian Church in the Hyde Park neighborhood of Chicago, the Unitarian Universalist Church of Meriden, Connecticut, and since 2002, here at the Unitarian Universalist Society. I identify as an atheist and a humanist, and a scientist and an environmentalist. As an atheist, I don't think that I will exist after my body dies. As a scientist, I believe that my experience of self is an incredibly complicated and fascinating phenomenon, and I don't comprehend how we get from atoms and electricity to that sense of self. As a humanist, I believe in my ability and responsibility to lead an ethical life, but I don't think that belief is based on reason. As all of these identities, I'm incredibly grateful that Unitarian Universalism exists and that I can be a part of it. Unitarian Universalism calls me to be a better person, and the people of the congregations that I have belonged to have supported me in that quest. I see the new version of Article 2 with an articulation of the values of Unitarian Universalism as a humanist statement, but also not an exclusively humanist statement. The Unitarian Universalism does not insist that everyone see the world through the same perspective as I do, and I'm happy for that. I have a lot to learn from my fellow travelers. I need my fellow travelers to help me understand the full range of human experience and to fully experience joy, awe, compassion, and gratitude. I'm grateful for what we can create together. I hope over the next few months you'll join me and many others in exploring the invitation of the proposed revisions to Article 2. Whether we, as the Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations, eventually adopt this proposal or not, the words we've heard and our responses to them tell us a lot about our living religious tradition, our world, how we're part of it, and how we're called to move in it. Almost every time we've done this, it's been hard. Some people have argued the way things were written was fine, and others should accept that the old language included them. Some changes have been adopted and some changes haven't, but the process of examining what our principles and purposes say, and if they reflect how we understand Unitarian Universalists nowadays in a changing world, has always been important. To end this reflection, I will quote the Reverend Bill Sinkford's words from the interim co-president's report to the General Assembly in 2017, which were cited in the first chapter of the UU Common Read book that Brenda read from at the beginning of our service. He says, "The final message we would pass on is a message of hope. There is a reason that people of color have become Unitarian Universalists from the very beginnings of this faith and still today. There is a fundamental hope in our values and our aspirations that speaks to persons across boundaries of race and culture and language and economic circumstance and ability. It is the empowerment of our Unitarian legacy and the love of our Universalist promise that draws people to us and keeps us here."
How we give, what we do with our lives, our time, and our resources is a reflection of our values. In response to the abundance we are blessed with, every week, this congregation donates generously to organizations in the community whose work aligns with our values and principles. Our community partner agency for this month's fifth Sunday is the Black Women's Maternal Health Collective, and Peg Bushka is here to tell us about it. In the sanctuary, the ushers will collect the offering, or you can follow the instructions on the screen for how to give online. All cash contributions.
Good morning. My name's Peg Boschka. My pronouns are she and her. I am co-chair of our UUS Racial Justice
team, and I've worked as a physician assistant in various clinical settings for my work. I'm here to talk about the Black Women's Maternal Health Collective. Why am I, as a white woman, talking about this? Because it's an issue that should touch us all and needs our attention. And because the Black women who are working on these issues need a break on a Sunday morning to rejuvenate, and we can do some of this work for them. I did submit this talk to Latasha DeLoach, who is a co-founder of the group we're talking about, and she reviewed it and okayed it. Latasha presented a great talk to us for our wonderful Wednesday a few weeks ago on this issue and on the organization. Maternal mortality or death during or within a year after pregnancy is an important health status indicator and is unacceptably high in the United States and increasing. Maternal death more than doubled in the United States from 1980s to 2015. This is in contrast to the international downward trend in maternal mortality. Research has shown that Black women are 3 times more likely to die from pregnancy complications than white women, 3 times. And appallingly, that rate is even worse in Iowa, being close to 6 times the likelihood. One might think these outcomes are only related to things like access to health care, income, education, and other social determinants of health. However, these statistics hold up even when you control for these factors. Highly educated Black women have lower survival rates than white women who haven't finished high school. When Beyonce and Serena Williams, very famous Black women with every resource at their disposal, still experienced severe birth complications. Many Black women who seek health care report they're not taken seriously or listened to, that they feel they're not understood regarding the challenges they deal with. There's theory that structural racism causes chronic stress and is partly responsible for the persistence of these racial health inequities. And there's concern that the healthcare system is functioning with bias, which has a direct effect on Black women. The data shows that Black patients treated by Black doctors have better outcomes. The role of racism and bias in healthcare, especially around pregnancy, has historical roots. And these issues need to be addressed in order to avoid preventable maternal deaths. The Black Women's Maternal Health Collective is doing good work. They're providing a safe place for women to discuss and process their experiences. They educate their community and the public about these issues. They engage in political advocacy to advance their cause. And we can help. Our donations can be used for things like expenses for training or conferences for members to expand their skill set, for scholarship for a student training in a health-related field, for food and childcare at events, for rental of a space for the organization to call their home. Thank you for opening your hearts today to listen to this information and to really hear it. This issue should alarm us into action in support of this and other organizations working on improving the health of Black women. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Peg. And now the ushers will collect the offering. You can follow the instructions on the screen for how to give online. Cash contributions go directly to our community partner agency. In addition to assisting our community partner, you may contribute toward your pledge or contribute to the congregation. You may also contribute by check using the memo line to designate the purpose. The offering is a sign of commitment to this free congregation, which is almost completely supported by the generosity of all who join with us. As we give and receive the offering, may we be transformed by our giving, and may the world be transformed by our gifts.
I'm so sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to make sure people notice that you
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Use the drop-down box to go to April 5th to make sure, if you use the app, to make sure your offering goes to the Black Maternal Women's Health Clinic. Thank you. Did anybody need to hear that again? April 30th? You have to go to April 30th or April 5th? Okay. Okay, thank you. May what has been shared today help us more fully affirm our interconnection and live into love and justice. Immediately after the service, we will have time for all to join in conversation and community. If you're newer to our community, we invite you to learn more about Unitarian Universalism and this congregation after the service. For those online, there is a link to a visitor form in YouTube Notes that will let us connect with you. And for those here in person, you can talk to a greeter in the atrium. To join in further conversation online, a link to our Zoom coffee hour rooms is available in the description below the video on YouTube. And for those in person, we invite you to gather in the fellowship hall for coffee, treats, and conversation. We encourage you to talk to each other about your responses to the proposed revision of Article 2. And now, to close our service today, we will sing Forward Through the Ages.
Yes. This is like an old barn burner, they call it, right? So I invite you to rise in body and spirit as we sing together, Forward Through the Ages.
Please join me in the words for extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. All these we carry in our hearts and in our minds until we are together again.
Our benediction today is Fitted for the Day by Kimberly Quinn Johnson. We are the ones we have been waiting for. We are not perfect, but we are perfectly fitted for this day. We are not without fault, but we can be honest to face our past as we chart a new future. We are the ones we have been waiting for. May we be bold and courageous to chart that new future. May we have faith in a future that is not known. We are the ones we have been waiting for. Go in peace. Blessed be. Amen.
Amen. Let it be so. Amen. Let it be so. Amen. Blessed be. Blessed be. Blessed be, blessed be, Amen. Let it be so.